Hey, Mason here with Comics and Crosses, and this is the place where we talk about the eternal truths behind our modern mythology. And today we're doing a special one-shot talking about why comic books matter. Why should you care about superheroes, about these stories with pictures and words? Are they for kids? Are they significant? Let's talk about it. Okay, so in talking about comic books and talking about superheroes, obviously I got a YouTube channel where this is what I do, so they're significant to me, they matter to me. Just a bit of my perspective where I'm coming from. I am a writer at heart. I've always been a writer. If anything, I might err on the side talking about writing more than I do the art, but no disrespect to the artists out there. I'm obviously a Christian person, giving a Christian perspective, and with that in mind, the reason I thought this video was important was because my channel is not about talking about things I don't like because of my Christian perspective. It's actually the opposite. This is where I want to talk about all the things I love about comic books, about superheroes, about the story arcs, about the characters, because if there's any mistake that perhaps Christianity and the church has made in the past, it's been focusing on what we are not about. So this channel and what I'm talking about is all about what I'm for. So maybe you felt a certain sort of negative tone from people, or maybe you've had it yourself when it comes to comic books. Maybe you're watching this because you're trying to figure out how to get your spouse to stop going to the comic book store, stop picking up comic books and reading them, and grow up. But might I offer to you my first point of why comic books matter is because I think all of us need to do a little less growing up. I think we could all benefit from being kids just a little bit more. In fact, Jesus said, "Blessed are the little children, let them come to me." And he told adults that you should have hearts like theirs. Also, he said that their angels are constantly before God. So, meaning that there's something special about a childlike perspective, about being young at heart. I think that you live longer. We know that stress is killing people every day. So, I think to note that comics are a childish thing is kind of like a weird thing. It's like saying, oh, getting exercise? Pfft, that's terrible. And another thing I'll say is that comic books are not, by and large, categorically childish. In fact, the majority of them are for adults. I mean, the story themes, even some of the content, the things should not be shown to children in a lot of cases, or should, obviously have some kind of parental guidance. So I think that's a big fallacy right there. Here's another reason why comic books matter. Comic books matter because they give hope. Think about it for a second. Now, while our superheroes and our characters may be locked in a sort of these eternal struggles, Batman versus the Joker, Superman versus Lex Luthor, constantly trying to save Metropolis, Star City, Gotham City, it seems like these things just go on and never end. My mom likes to make the comment whenever we watch a superhero or an action movie. She says, they just fight the whole time and nobody ever dies. And, well, at least in comics they die, they come back, but they do die sometimes. So despite the ongoing nature of comic books, they do give a sense of hope, because if you look at our protagonists, our main characters, you look at the Hulk, you look at Batman, you look at Superman, you look at Spider-Man, they've gone through some intense things. I mean, spoiler alert, but Spider-Man had the Green Goblin, his arch nemesis, kill his first love. Well, indirectly, he kind of dropped her, and then there was a snapping of the neck. I don't know. But anyway, the point is, Spider-Man, he's lost people. Batman is lost to Robin. He got killed. Spoiler alert. There's just so many things. These characters are flawed. This can kind of wax and wane. I mean, there were times where things were getting really dark, like in DC, like around Identity Crisis, and then things kind of got brighter, and but overall, I would say that these characters, despite all these trials that they go through, keep pursuing justice, keep pursuing the right thing and doing the right thing regardless. So why do I say that's important? Well, because I think to see someone fighting, even if it's an imaginary someone, to see someone fighting inspires us. It gives us hope to believe that we too should keep fighting on. I mean, think about it. Have you ever cried during a movie, watching somebody's journey? Because stories that we watch or read, movies, television, comic books, they're all about conflict. The thing about stories, they are no good if there's no conflict, because we want to see someone pushing against something, having resistance, and overcoming. That's what draws our attention. That's what story is, especially movies. Total conflict, otherwise there is no movie. Or it's one of those kind of really dreary art house movies. And the truth is that Scripture tells us to abide in faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Probably if you've been to a wedding, you've heard that passage read, and the focus is usually on love. And since it's the greatest, I get it. Hope is really important. It's the anchor of the soul that ancient scriptures in the Bible say. So hope is really significant, and the fact that we can look to these stories and have a sense of hope to see our characters fight on, that we really believe that Batman is going to continue, Superman is going to continue, that Iron Man is going to continue, Steve Rogers, that's something. Another cool thing of why I think comic books matter is the continuity of them, the ongoing nature of the stories. I mean, what medium can you think of like that? I mean, maybe James Bond, but even then things change from Bond to Bond, from director to director. Over the years, that franchise has changed. The only thing I can think close to the ongoing continuity of comic books is actually soap operas. I mean, those things have been on for years. A lot of people got their start in soap operas. But comic books have this kind of never-ending nature, and some of the beauty of it is you feel like you know the characters. You know the decisions they're going to make. You know what's happened to them in the past. To see certain characters come back around again or die and then come back. I mean, all of that continuity is really great for sort of a sense of stability, actually. Knowing that kind of where things are at and that you know the history of these characters, imagined or not. I mean, I think that's pretty cool. So here's another thing that I love about comic books and why they matter. Because of the community that they give you. If you're into comic books, like if you love them, if you go to the comic shop every week, you're probably on Twitter, you're probably on Instagram connecting with other people who love comic books, and it's just fun to have that instant community. During this whole shelter in place and things that have been going on lately in the United States, it's been a great joy for me to go to the comic book shop every week once it opened back up, and to be able to see people, chat with people, talk about what they're reading, get recommendations and suggestions, find out titles by writers that I'm reading that I didn't know about, that somebody else introduces me to. I mean, there is such a great sense of community. On Twitter, there are people that I've never met that I talk to all the time, and it's just really fun and really cool to have people who appreciate the same thing that you do. It's positive, and it's actually right now in 2020 very critical and very crucial, and it's a great thing to have. And I will say, as a Christian person, something that I've learned is that a lot of times churches are structured by region or locality. You go to a church that's near your home and you meet people who live around you, and that's great, and there's a lot of positivity to that. But I think that the dynamic of groups that are formed based on affinity and based on something that they all love and they do already, meaning they're already in motion and in action, I think are even more potent and more powerful, or at least create that connection quicker. Because there's something about, if you've ever been on a blind date or, tried to make a connection face to face in front of you, sometimes it works, sometimes it does not, but something about making a connection side by side when you're working next to somebody or going to school or doing an activity, there's a whole other level to that I think is really powerful. So here's another reason that why comic books matter is they teach us things. Stories have a way of teaching us things that is really profound. I mean, like I said before, haven't you ever cried during a movie? Have you cried during a comic book movie? I have. In fact, Jesus himself, Jesus Christ, when he was on the earth, he would speak in these parables. He would tell these stories because people were looking for information, he was trying to give them, he was trying to deposit to them revelation on a heart level. And getting somebody to understand something and have an aha moment is a lot of times different than just dictating information. So he would speak in these parables or these stories. And my favorite quote, there's a poet, Alfred Lord Tennyson, who talked about Jesus speaking in parables, and he described it this way. He said, "It was when truth in closest words shall fail, and truth embodied in a tale shall enter in at lowly doors." And what he's saying there, he's saying that we can hear something and somebody can tell you the right answer, the right information, but there's something about hearing a story that gets the message of that story just into your spirit a little somehow. And so that's another reason why I love comics, why I think they matter, because and hopefully for good, but they can teach us things. They can teach us about perseverance, they can teach us about right and wrong, they can teach us about great things that we should be striving towards. Not to say that comic books are more important than the Bible or should be the only source or thing teaching people about right and wrong or anything like that. And sometimes what they're teaching is even wrong. But I think appreciate the fact that a good story can teach you something in a way that changes you versus maybe just learning in a traditional fashion might not. Okay guys, so those are some top reasons why I think comic books matter. Obviously there's so much more to comic books and collecting. There's just the fun of hunting for things, finding valuable things. I mean, that's even a heaven-like quality. Jesus said that the kingdom of God is like a treasure that somebody found out buried in a field, and then they sold everything they had to get that field so they could get access to that treasure. That's what it's kind of like, coming to discover who God is. And maybe it's not exactly the same as finding a super sweet key issue, but there's something about hunting that is actually spiritual. And then also there's obviously beautiful artwork, there's cool ongoing stories that are just fun. I think there's characters that inspire, like Superman, like Billy Batson, the real Captain Marvel. There's Peter Parker, Spider-Man. There's just all kinds of characters that are just really cool and that really inspiring. Great writers, content that literally is used to build stories for multiple billion-dollar blockbusters in movie theaters when there was movie theaters. But yeah, all these things are coming from this source material. So obviously this is awesome stuff. So thank you so much for being a part of this video. If you listened to this long, I really appreciate it. I hope you subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it with anybody who needs to know why comic books matter, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, come along for more great content every week, and I'll talk to you next time.